Hello, it's Maginpanic here. Today we're gonna talk about that Chris Ramsey animation I did lately. I'm gonna make a little voice over it and I'm going to tell you how actually I did it. I have to do it outside of home because my fan is rattling so hard and I have the video on my phone, so I will be doing voiceover right in this spot. Let's go. I rushed straight into tracking thing frame by frame to check if my idea will works properly. I did that little blue outline over the deck of cards, over the letters, and I was trying to snap that little rectangle on the deck of cards, and I believed that will works pretty well, and it did, and I was super happy with the result. Then I wanted to check how actually I want to move the letters, how I want to slide them from the jacket into the deck of cards, and with just tiny motion I pretty much knew what I want to do. I selected the letters which I want to slide into the deck of cards. Some of you told me some bad words after looking at this animation. I did the right choice doing what I just did. For the half of the animation I used the cutter tool on the raster drawings I had on the footage, and the other half was the vector drawings. And the key thing here was to decide at what point I want to change the raster drawings into the vector drawings and how to make them look pretty much the same. And that's always a tough challenge, to create vector drawings looks like the raster ones. I used the cutter tool for the most, as I said, and I just started moving the lower part first, and then I was moving all the rest of the letters. As you can see, I'm using the brush tool. I'm just picking the color around the letters to pick the closest color and to draw over the letter that I don't need. With that, I was able to achieve that early movement of the letters without doing anything at all. That was pretty quick. I was covering the parts that I don't liked because you know, when you are moving raster drawings, there are nothing behind. So at some point I created another layer, and on that second layer I was manipulating with the letters, and on the layer in between the jacket and my raster drawings I will put a little mask that will cover at the very end the letters that wasn't at the screen, because they will be on the deck of cards at this point. I don't have to be so precise when I'm redrawing a parts of finger or that type of stuff, because the animation is 24 frames per second and there's also 24 drawings per second. So the animation is super quick. It will be on the screen just for the split second. So believe me, you don't have to be so precise with it. And with just that tiny touch of kind of looking like the finger, like anything, it will look very cool. Here you have the example of not super precise drawings. So now is the frame where I decided to change the letters from the raster ones into the vector ones, and at this point I saw the color of the letters was slightly different, and I had to make a little transition in color and I used two grayish colors to make that transition, to bring the color back to white on the deck of card. And I really wanted the colors, the letters white on the deck of card, because the deck of card was obviously black, and the contrast was just better this way. I'm just finishing the animation here, just a quick pose to pose kind of, I must say, without any squash and stretch, just sliding and slowing at the very position. And with that, it was pretty much done. There was a couple more things to think about. As I said, the cover, the patch over the letters, that was missing in this animation, and I did it with just a couple keyframes, and I keyframed this patch over the entire animation where the letters was outside of the jacket. I also had to draw it for like 2 frames because at some point my patch was covered the hand and the deck of card actually, so I had to create a little more patch, a little more cover, a little more precise work to make everything works fine, which you will see right now. There was 2 more things, or maybe 1, to think about when that was done. It was to make the motion blur of the hand looks natural with the letters on the deck of card, and obviously make the frame by frame animation on the deck of card be at the point where it have to be. So as you can see here, again, don't have to be super precise, because it will be just a 1/24th of a second on the screen. With that being said, I'm moved to that tracking part where okay, there's a last thing here. The one color was popping here, and I solved that issue just copying and pasting from different frame instead of grabbing the color and putting it on the spot, because it was just like a blink or something. Then I was able to match the card, the letters on the card, and you will see in a second when Chris is sliding the card outside of deck with his other fingers, he's bending this card. At the very end of this animation, I had to break apart 2 vector drawings from the typography and just use a little mesh wrap to bend the letters with skewing the letters. With that being said, it will be just the last thing to do that you will see in a second. Obviously I had to erase the part that was covered by the finger. The other part was the 2 types of blurs that I used in this animation. The one was the variable blur, and the second was directional blur. So with the motion blur, the motion of the hand, I used the directional blur to have it, and I leave just at the very end the 0.1 to have that natural looking of the edges of the letters, and that worked very well with just that 0.1 here. The second type of the blur was making the focus that was on Chris' camera. As you can see, his finger, which is in front of the camera, is more blurred than his other part of the hand, and it's because the focus on the camera, and I had to do it with variable blur. So I created a little circle around the part that I wanted to be blurred more. I blurred that with additional blur to have the transition of the circle that I draw a little bigger, and with that variable blur I was able to decide if my blurred circle have to be blurred when it's masking my letters or not. And with that setup, as you see on the left side on the screen, I was able to make that focus of the camera that was naturally blurring his front of the hands. With that being said, that's it for the Chris Ramsay's animation, and hopefully you learned something. And if you'll create something like this, hopefully you will not make the mistakes that I did, because I recreated this animation like twice from the very beginning.